promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar. Good afternoon and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on WADR.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. A potential rift looms among members of Senegal's ruling APR party. Nigerians project difficult times ahead as the National Assembly refuses to suspend Tuesday's hike in petrol pump prices.
The effects of this price is not the same across board. What it portends for majority of the Nigerian population is poverty, hunger, and deprivation.
Its transitional authority announces withdrawal from the Organization for the Development of the Senegal River. And Ghana Supreme Court rejects a petition seeking to block the passage of the anti-gay law.
This was always going to be difficult. This is a case of first impression. The courts are usually quite reluctant to interfere in another branch of parliament. So we're disappointed, but this is not the end of it.
Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is Imoh Edet with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining us and a warm welcome to our listeners on Newmi FM and Hot FM in the Gambia. And of course, a warm welcome to our viewers on Facebook and YouTube. Let's begin in Senegal as tension is presumably mounting within the presidential camp after President Macky Sall was given a free hand to designate a candidate for the next presidential election. Unsurprising, President Sall remains silent about his successor, while names are circulating within his political family. A meeting of the APR, his party turned into a brawl on Tuesday, following a clash between supporters of Abdoulaye Diouf Sarr, one of the party's leaders, and those of Prime Minister Amadou Ba. Ba had rejected an announcement by Diouf Sarr that they were both APR candidates for the presidential election. Abdoulaye Imoh, a Senegalese political analyst, explains that the fracas within the presidential camp will continue right up to the presidential election.
What's obvious within the APR is that there has always been a leadership crisis, but also internal wars, and this is going to grow and will continue to grow as soon as the leaders now know that the president will no longer be in the race. And while waiting for the choice, there are bound to be some who will try to position themselves, who in relation to rebellions relative to the choice that the president will make on the next figure who will run as a candidate for the APR, and Benno in view of the presidential election of February 25, 2024. Indeed, these persons can set the dialogues and also officially put in their candidacies. It's a form of communication to demonstrate that he is now beyond the president's choice. It is also to better legitimize his candidacy. If it seems extraordinary that he should be chosen by President Macky Sall, and if it seems extraordinary that he should declare himself a candidate, some Senegalese citizens keep repeating the name of Amadou Ba as a real potential successor to Macky Sall's candidacy in the run-up to this presidential election.
Abdoulaye Imoh is a Senegalese political analyst. Well, we cross over to Nigeria, where the House of Representatives on Wednesday rejected an amendment to a motion seeking to suspend the recent increase in the pump price of petrol. Members voted against the amendment after Deputy Speaker Benjamin Kalu, who presided over plenary, questioned if it was in the place of the House to take such a position since pump price is controlled by the market forces. WDR's Usman Omar has more in this report.
One of the new entrants into the legislative chamber, Ugo Chinyere Ikenga, had moved a motion calling for the investigation into the increase in price of petrol since the removal of petrol subsidy. This was unanimously rejected by an overwhelming majority who argued that it would be a waste of legislative time to investigate a matter that is entirely at the mercy of market forces. However, the House resolved to carry out an investigation to ascertain the justification for the increases. Reacting to the development, Paul Alaje, a senior economist at SPM Professionals Nigeria, says the lawmakers were right as they are supposed to be in sync with the executive regarding the fuel subsidy removal.
What that means is that the federal government will continue to make more revenue from crude oil sales without any encumbrance as to what to pay for subsidy for Nigerians.
Speaking further, Paul says the new petroleum price regime will further widen the gap between the poor and the rich.
The effect of this price is not the same across board. The poor now have to spend between 45 to 75% of their income on transportation. The middle class that are manageably existing will now have to spend between 55 to 60% of their income, while the rich will part away with almost 20% of their income. What it portends for majority of the Nigerian population is poverty, hunger, and deprivation.
As the citizens continue to bear the burden of the new fuel pump price hike, the presidency had ordered the unveiling of a comprehensive palliative package to cushion the impact, a move that is still generating debates among citizens. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
The Guinean authorities announced on Tuesday that the country would be suspended from the Organization for the Development of the Senegal River, or OMVS. According to them, the concerns and strategic interests of Guinea's participation in the OMVS have not always been taken into account by the organization since its creation. They also denounced the delay in financing the Kukutamba hydroelectric dam. Observers say this decision will further weaken the organization. Ogeberika brings us more details in this report by Conakry's Cherno Afa Ibrahim Balde.
This announcement comes after the 19th ordinary session of the Conference of Heads of State and Government of the OMVS, which was held on Tuesday. The Guinean government believes that its strategic interests have not been taken into account since the creation of the organization, hence its decision to withdraw. Sergio Barry is a political analyst.
These two reasons are not of a nature to allow a better understanding of the elements of appreciation on which we can base ourselves to evaluate the decision of the transitional authorities. Is it the fault of the other member countries, or does the problem lie with the partners, particularly China? Has Guinea done its part? Aside from the question of representation within the OMVS, we also need to try to understand the structure, the way it works, and above all, the rotating presidency.
The construction of the Kukutamba hydroelectric dam in the Toga prefecture is the largest OMVS project. The Guinean government is not happy that the organization is not funding the project. According to Ibrahim Abba, a doctoral student in public law and international relations at the Superior Institute of Dakar, this could complicate the implementation of the project.
This dam has still not seen the light of the day, even though it should serve all the member countries of the OMVS and the interest of all. So the future of this project is doubtful. There will be a lack of seriousness, and Guinea needs to return to the institution. And for Guinea to return, we need solid guarantees, because at the moment there is discontent.
In future years, the presidency of the OMVS will be held by the Mauritanian president, who has already set himself the priority of resolving conflicts between member countries and mobilizing funds for the organization's projects.
That was a report by WADR's Cherno Afa Ibrahim Balde in Conakry and voiced by Ogeberika.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
The Nigerian President Mohamed Bazoum is on a 3-day visit to the troubled northwest region of the country. Bazoum's visit to Tahua comes shortly after his return from Abuja, where he attended a mini-conference of select regional leaders chaired by President Bola Tinubu. As Sankuli Janko reports, this is the second such visit to the region by the head of state since assuming office in April 2021.
Mohamed Bazoum's visit to the Tahua region will start 3 days, during which he will undertake important discussions. The Nigerian presidency, in a statement reporting on the planned trip, mentioned security, national cohesion and development on Bazoum's agenda. Cumulatively, the Point program intends to foster national growth and invariably development. The Nigerian leader is expected to visit the Dakar drone base built within the framework of the fight against terrorism and proceed to the inauguration of cement plant based in the locality of Badagusheri. Launched in 2021 by the Chinese company China Africa Material Building at a cost of around $60 million. This plant will have an annual production capacity of 1 million tons. Bazoum will also proceed with the inauguration of 2 paved roads and the launch of rehabilitation works on a 3rd road bordering Mali and Algeria. Tahoua in the northwest of Niger is one of the 3 regions badly hit by terrorism and terrorist-related activities, paralleled with those of Difa in the southeast and Tillaberi in the west. Since violent extremism got hold over these regions, thousands of people have been killed and hundreds of thousands displaced.
Sankule Janko reporting there. Ghana's apex court, the Supreme Court, has thrown out an injunction against the anti-LGBTQ plus bill in Ghana. A 9-member Supreme Court panel dismissed the request that was seeking to hold Parliament's consideration of the anti-gay bill. In August 2021, a private member's bill was introduced in Parliament to criminalize same-sex and curb the advocacy of LGBTQ rights. From Accra, Tewin Bilalosin reports.
The applicant, Dr. Adoy, is an academic researcher who filed the suit at the Supreme Court challenging the constitutionality of the Human Sexual Rights and Ghanaian Family Values Bill, which is seeking to outlaw the practice of LGBTQ and any activity promoting it in the country. The court on Wednesday heard legal arguments of both parties, the petitioners and Parliament, on the issue of whether the case should be put on hold. The court, after hearing all sides, threw out the case in a unanimous decision, saying it is preemptive and will be addressed in the substantive case before it. A member of the CSO's coalition against the bill, Professor Emerita Techiwa Menu, says they are disappointed by the ruling and they expect a favorable ruling in the substantive case before the court.
This was always going to be difficult. This is a case of first impression. The courts are usually quite reluctant to interfere in another branch of Parliament. So we're disappointed, but this is not the end of it. They haven't considered the bill. There is also a substantive matter that we have filed before the Supreme Court. So we'll be waiting for that case to be listed. So we have a substantive. The bill has not been passed. So today, all these issues were procedural. It was about the manner in which it was being done. But there are substantive issues about the content of the bill, and we'll get to that later.
The court is yet to list and hear the substantive case, which praised the court to rule declaring the bill as unconstitutional on the grounds of right. Reporting for Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I am Atiewin Imbila Lawson in Accra.
You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM Dakar. Here is a reminder of our top stories. A potential rift looms among members of Senegal's ruling APR party. Nigerians project difficult times ahead as the National Assembly refuses to suspend Tuesday's hike in petrol pump prices. The Transitional Authority in Guinea announces withdrawal from the organization for the development of the Senegal River. Ghana Supreme Court rejects a petition seeking to block the passage of the anti-gay law. And still ahead, we do have a guest interview segment, the newspaper review and sports news. Please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio.
It's 13 minutes past the top of the hour here in Dakar. Don't forget you can listen to us live on WADR.org. We are streaming also live on Facebook and YouTube. The United Nations Resident Coordinator in Liberia, Christine Umotoni, is calling on the government of Liberia to invest more in the fisheries sector, which she describes as a catalyst to the growth of the nation's economy. The country currently has a huge fish deposit, but investing in the sector over the years has been a challenge. WDR's Ellington Popper report.
The forum held outside the capital, Monrovia, provided stakeholders with a platform to discuss issues affecting the fisheries sector such as poor investment and illegal fishing activities. The sector is a key driver in increasing revenue generation for country, according to Madam Christine Intoni. The resident coordinator said the fisheries contribute to food security for billions of people worldwide and play a crucial role in enhancing the livelihoods of coastal communities in many countries.
We are working together with partners and the government to draw a new national development plan, which will accompany this country even post-elections. I see a sector like this a key driver of development. We will continue to work closely, and we encourage strong collaboration among the partners, an approach of not only a one UN approach, but a one approach of all partners, a coordinated approach.
For her part, the resident representative of the Food and Agriculture Organization, Binta Stephen Tassier, assured the National Fisheries and Aquaculture Authority of its commitment to reviving the sector.
I hope our NAFA colleagues that will now hold the presidency will do the same, and I would like to reassure you that FAO will be by your side. So please do not hesitate, as we usually work in the same manner. Do not hesitate to call upon us, because unfortunately we have a lot of sidelines who benefit from the fishery sector in our countries.
The event was held under the theme towards practical solutions to strengthening fisheries management and sustainability. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I am Darlington Pogba in Monrovia.
Let's take you now to Cameroon, where the health sector is on high alert following the reported distribution and sale of a batch of contaminated cough syrup. Sounding the alarm on Wednesday, the World Health Organization, WHO, confirmed that the syrup has an unacceptable amount of contaminant chemicals. Identified as natural cold syrup by WHO Africa Regional Office, the medicine contains paracetamol, phenylephrine, hydrochloride, and chlorophenamine medlate, a combination used to relieve symptoms associated with the common cold, flu, and allergic rhinitis. Matasi completes the story.
The cough syrup was analyzed in WHO contracted laboratory after samples from Cameroon were made available last month. The analysis indicated that as much as 28.6% diethylene glycol was detected in the syrup multiple times, above the acceptable limit of not more than 0.10%. Diethylene glycol is normally used as a solvent but can be put in medicine as cheap alternative to more expensive ingredients. According to WHO, diethylene glycol is toxic to humans and proved fatal, thus the alert to declare the product unsafe, especially in children, as it may result in serious injury or death. Other side effects may include abdominal pain, vomiting, diarrhea, inability to pass urine, headache, altered mental state, and acute kidney injury, which may lead to death. These symptoms are similar to acute kidney injury, or AKI-Zs. The product packaging lists Fraken International England as a manufacturer, but the United Kingdom National Regulatory Authority has confirmed that no such company exists in the UK, Reuters reported. The WHO said inquiries are still underway to determine the origin of the product, adding that the product may have authorizations in other countries. In 2022, more than 300 children died from contaminated cough syrup in Gambia, Uzbekistan, and Indonesia.
Matase reporting there.
This is the newspaper review. Stay on top of the news. Get the most important stories with added insight and concise review.
This is the newspaper review.
Let's take you now back to Accra as we join Atewimbila Lawson for the newspaper review.
Greetings from Accra, Ghana. Welcome to the newspaper review for today, Thursday, July 20, 2023. Let's start with the headlines in the Daily Graphic newspaper. The screaming headline, 24 million records not digitized. That's according to the acting registrar. Then this is regarding the births and deaths database. Then some banner headlines, special supplement on insurance, and then insurance fair at Accra Mall today, and finally Standard Chartered affirms commitment to Ghana. So definitely business-oriented banner headlines in the Daily Graphic newspaper. Let's now move to the Daily Dispatch newspaper. The screaming headlines, "Do not respond to those who insult me." That's what Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is telling his supporters. In fact, there are more headlines about the Vice President. There's another one, that's a banner headline. Bawumia denies Islamic funding from Nigeria. Then another banner headline, 90% of Parks and Gardens Department staff due for pension in 5 years. And then former NDC MP agrees with Speaker that members of Parliament who leave without permission are vacating their seats. And then final banner headline, Mahama on reconciliation mission as he calls on Haruna Idrisu in Tamale. So those are the headlines in the Daily Dispatch newspaper. Let's go to the Business Analyst newspaper. The screaming headline, nearly 850,000 Ghanaians put into poverty in 2022. That's according to a World Bank report. Then another banner headline, government to borrow 2.66 billion Ghana cedis this week. And then producer price inflation rate for June hits 29.2%. Those are all banner headlines. Another banner headline, a Kumfi juice factory should be model unit for technology transfer. That's according to the ADB managing director. Then the final banner headline, Court of Appeal erred in the GN Bank license revocation orders. And that is what the Supreme Court is saying. So those are the headlines in the Business Analyst newspaper. Let's now end with some showbiz or some entertainment. Let's bring you the headlines in the Graphic Showbiz. The screaming headline, Joint Productions can revive Ghana movie industry. That's according to actor Eddie Nate. Some banner headlines, I won't delete cheating bit given another chance. That's according to actor Ajiti Anang and what he wrote in his book. And finally, Kitaya is Miss Grand Ghana 2023. And her picture is spread across the Graphic Showbiz newspaper. So those are the headlines in the major dailies in Ghana today. My name is Atiewin Imbila Lawson. Back to you in the studio.
Many thanks, Atewin, for the newspaper review.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
This segment of our guest interview takes you back to our earlier report on the imminent tension within the presidential camp after President Macky Sall was given a free hand to designate a candidate for the next presidential election. Unsurprising, President Sall remains silent about this successor, while names are circulating within his political party. Also recall a meeting of the APR, his party turned a brawl on Tuesday following a clash between supporters of Abdullah Diouf Sarr, one of the party's leaders, and those of Prime Minister Amadou Ba. Well, I guess governance expert Ibrahim Makan analyzes the signal this is sending to the opposition camp and what this translates to with just 6 months to the elections.
It really translates many things. First, that the president has no authority on his coalition. And this is so true that the president has to even call on former Speaker of the Parliament, Mustafa Niasse, to help him in the choice of the candidate of the coalition. Now, the candidate of the coalition was supposed to come from Macky Sall's party, but they are fighting each other, and there are also calls within other parties of the coalition, like the pairs, like all the other small parties, that the candidate should not also come from one party. There should be a list of candidates coming from other parties, so that the coalition can decide in fairness. So that creates also another situation whereby even if the party, the Mustafa Niasse helped to choose one candidate. That candidate cannot be the candidate, who cannot be unanimously accepted by the others. So what I'm foreseeing is a lot of trouble within the coalition in the next few weeks.
Well, this may force one to ask, why is the president uncertain about who to succeed him? I mean, this would have been in the offing long before. Or truly, did the president have any intention to run for a third term?
Well, even by comparison, you recall that in Niger, almost 2 years before the election, we knew who was going to be the candidate of the ruling party. Yusufu decided that he's a minister of internal affairs, who is now the current president of Niger, was the candidate of the party. He was given a blank check by the party, and he started his campaign almost 2 years before the election. That's why he succeeded in the election, and that's why it didn't create any problem within the party. But here we are at 7 months before the election. It's only 7 months that the president decided, I'm no longer running. So it creates a kind of chaos because everybody thinks that this is the time for him to be a candidate and to succeed Macky Sall as the president. And the day, a president say, I'm no longer a candidate, he loses his authority within the party. And any person who is chosen will be seen as the closest ally to the president. And people can even organize rebellion between brackets within the party, and people can also decide to abandon the party. Look at what is happening in the PS at the moment. The president of the party decided that the candidate of Macky Sall will be the candidate of the coalition. A week after, on the radio, the spokesperson of the party said that cannot be because we need to consult with our membership and so and so and so and so. So now we are in a situation where if something is not done quickly, I'm even persuaded that the Benno Bokk may not be even participating in the second round of the election. Because of his, he's dislocated at the moment.
Ibrahim Khan is a governance expert. And here is Sankule Janko with Sport News.
Hello there, warm welcome and thank you for joining us. A shooting has ensued, leading to the death of 2 people in the centre of Auckland, New Zealand, barely hours before the opening ceremony of the FIFA Women's World Cup. The gunman is also reportedly dead, while 6 people, including police officers, were injured. The incident took place at a construction site in the central business district, according to media reports. It is reported that all FIFA officials and national teams that are currently in the city are safe. Prime Minister Chris Hipkins was quoted as saying the attack was not deemed as an act of terrorism, adding that the FIFA Women's World Cup would go ahead as planned. He assured that the threat has been neutralized, saying there was no risk after the incident. Meanwhile, New Zealand's Sports Minister Grant Robertson said more police would be deployed in the area to provide further reassurance. Co-host New Zealand will take on Norway in the opening fixture at Eden Park on Thursday after the opening ceremony. This year's FIFA Women's World Cup is co-hosted by New Zealand and Australia. Elsewhere, Ghana's Black Queens are through to the next stage of the African Women's Olympic qualifying following a 4-0 win against Guinea in the second leg in Accra to advance 7-0 on aggregate. Benin also progressed after beating Guinea-Bissau 3-2 in the return leg in Cotonou, 5-4 on aggregate. Meanwhile, Mali also advanced to the next stage after a 2-2 draw against Burkina Faso following a 3-2 win in the first leg in Bamako on Tuesday night. And that's it for sports. It's back to you.
And we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink from West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to our listeners in the Gambia via Hot 104.3 FM and Newmi FM 94.0 Banjul, in Liberia on Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM Lufa County, and in Ghana on Radio Pod 95.1 FM Savannah Region, and on Royals FM 104.7. Wenchi Christian Mukwidi has been on the console, and Mustafa Sek has been streaming on Facebook and YouTube. Let's continue the conversation on Twitter, Instagram at WDL News, and Facebook, West Africa Democracy Radio English Service. I am Imoh Edet. Good afternoon.
News, talk, music, get it all 24 hours on West